Good day, and welcome to this Urban Barns video news presentation. My name is Kim Elton, and I'm very pleased to have with me today Dr. Mark Lesfred from the Bioresource Engineering Department at McGill University. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Urban Barns has recently announced a research and collaboration project with McGill to study cubic agriculture. And I understand that you, Dr. Lesfred, will be the lead researcher on this project.
Yeah, this is an initial multi-year project that will be interacting between Urban Barns and McGill University.
Over a 5-year period, I understand.
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, listen, we have a lot of questions we want to ask you, but before we dig in too deep, perhaps for the benefit of those watching this presentation and for myself, you could quickly tell us just what bioresource engineering is all about.
Bioresource engineering is it would be the climax of the evolution of biology, engineering, and agriculture, all coming together in this one unified research group, similar to civil engineering, which does buildings. We deal with everything that's biological.
Okay. That's simple and to the point. Let's get down to it.
Okay.
So cubic agriculture, that's what we're calling it, Urban Barns technology, and it's in a controlled environment, the barn. It's done primarily with, completely with LED controlled lighting. So tell us a little bit about that. No sunshine?
No. So the goal of this research is that we've been able to grow things in the field, and we can grow them in greenhouses. But the idea is that at some point we have to be able to grow them without anything. And the reason why we want to do that is that because we can start to grow not just in the field, but we can actually start to bring the food and production to the location. So the idea with LEDs is that LEDs can come in every color, all the way from UV light all the way to infrared, and every shade in between, so the whole rainbow spectrum that you have. We can then start to provide exactly the wavelengths that we want to the plants to allow them to maximize production.
So sunlight has all of these different parts of the spectrum, but you can be very specific with your LED lighting as to what you're...
Correct. So the full spectrum is everything that we can consider electromagnetic radiation. And so our idea is that when we grow a plant, when we look at the plant, it is green. And that's because most of the green light is reflected off. And so what we're after is the blue light and the red light, and those are the two wavelengths that plants like best. And so by giving them those wavelengths, we can grow them faster and usually healthier and can make them quicker to market.
Now you said healthier, so we're growing them in a controlled environment with LED lighting. The nutritional value, how is that affected?
So by growing them in a fully controlled environment, plants do not like stress. Well, they like a little bit of stress, but not too much. They're kind of like humans, where you have to be in the same world. And so by providing a little bit of stress, that we get the plants to actually improve their nutritional value. But if you provide too much stress, they don't grow as fast, and they don't provide quite the marketable product. So when you go to the supermarket, you're only seeing the best crops. When we grow them in a full controlled environment, we give them what they want, which is they want the full, secure environment, perfect nutrients, perfect temperature, perfect environment, and then we can grow them exactly the way they want to be.
So good or better than?
Correct. We say that we can do it equivalently, but in most cases, if we set up a regime that's is proper, so control temperature, light, and everything else, we can actually, as they start getting ready for market, we can cause that stress event that actually improves their nutritional value. So usually the darker color plants usually occur towards the latter parts of their life cycle.
I see.
And so we can say, okay, let's make it a little bit colder. That colder temperature makes them increase those pigmentations. Once those pigmentations are improved, then we can then say, well, they're more nutritious. So that's the heavy dark reds, greens, and oranges.
I'm going to go with better.
Okay.
All right, great. So nutrition, how about bugs and things like that? There's no pesticides, correct? I mean,
correct.
That's a problem.
Yeah, so this is a fully controlled environment. So everything that comes in, we can regulate. So we control the light, the energy, the temperature, the gases that are brought in.
Bugs don't get in.
Bugs do not get in. It's actually very much of a controlled room environment where we have to walk through a door. We make sure that we don't use our outdoor clothing so that we don't spread the diseases. As long as there's no diseases, we don't have that impact. Insects do not like to be in full controlled environments. They like being out in the field, and we let them stay there. So this is a way to regulate these things.
Well, and I suppose we could get into a big, long discussion about pesticides in the environment and the effect on on people and so on, but let's not go too far. We've got a lot to cover today. Talk about the products, leafy vegetables, lettuce.
So with a fully controlled environment, we can technically grow everything. Work has been done with NASA and with other groups looking at everything all the way from the small leafy green crops such as your oregano and your basil and such, all the way up into the full-size crops such as corn, wheat, barley, crops like that. We focus at what we consider to be horticultural-based crops. So these are your lettuces, your spinach, your kales, your tomatoes, cucumbers.
The things that you would find in the grocery store.
Correct. Those are the high market value crops
Right.
that people consume continuously. You don't expect to go to the grocery store and find full wheat kernels. So we don't grow those. We grow the ones that you expect to find at your store and your fresh produce store.
Okay, great. So, and I guess it would be market driven in many cases.
Correct. So some areas
Different
like to eat a lot of tomatoes. Some people like to eat a lot of cucumbers, and it is very much depending on what your cultural background is what you grow. So the Italians like a lot of basil. We can grow a lot of basil for them.
I see.
If you're big into baby spinach, that's an easy crop to grow also. So there's a lot of crops that in the flexibility, and quite often, if you choose what the crop is that they want, initially there's always an apprehension for it, but if it is what they consider to be normal within their diet, it's usually easy acceptance.
Okay. Now, what I've read about the research as well is that you're hoping to actually speed up the growth of these plants. And I guess my concern would be, okay, is it really clever to fool Mother Nature and try to make something grow faster than it ought to? And what are the ramifications of that? And how do you do it?
Okay, so when we grow something out in the field, it's very uncontrolled. We can end up on a day where we could have -1 or 2 degrees Celsius, and that will stop the plant from growing. They just don't like it. Spinach and stuff just cease to grow. They don't die, but as soon as it warms back up again, they'll grow faster. If you have some crops such as tomato and cucumber and you get that cold, they die. So we're trying to make sure that they never reach those extreme stress conditions, the really low temperatures or the really high temperatures, the really low light. So when it's dark out, obviously the plants can't grow, but then as we provide more and more light, we can get them to grow to maximum. And then there's a certain point that if we provide too much light, that's also harmful. So we don't want to hit those extremes. And since we don't hit those extremes, we can take a crop that would normally grow in 60 days, we can make it 30 days.
All right. But just because you're controlling the environment, everything's
Correct.
going on. Makes sense. There's no cloudy days.
Exactly.
All right, very good. So resources, what do you use in terms of electrical? Now, I can understand that LED lighting we know is very low voltage and probably doesn't use a lot of energy. What about water and other resources that you need to produce this, this food?
So the 3 main resources that we require is ultimately we need an air, we need a water, and we need an energy source. And that energy source is used both for heat and for light. And so then by using those things, we can then regulate that energy. The other ones, such as water, we can recycle that. So as the plants transpire, they produce more water, we can recycle that back into the system. The nutrients we can collect from the different fertilizers, phosphorus, nitrogen, and such that we need to supply the plants to. And so ultimately it comes down to how do we control the energy to control the temperature and the light.
So low impact on the resources, and you're recycling most of the water, so very efficient, probably very efficient from a marketing perspective as well, the cost of the produce when it's finally delivered.
Correct.
And we've covered a lot here, and there's a lot more information, of course, on the website and in the releases and the future information that will be coming out about this. But is there anything that I've missed? Is there something that you...
Yeah, the biggest advantage that we have with growing this system is that we can grow it right next to where the consumer is, so right next to the grocery store.
There you go.
And so we can do on demand. So yes, it takes 30 days, but we know that at Christmas time, we are going to want certain produce. At certain times, Easter and such, people want these crops. And so we can grow them so that they're supplied to the consumer as we want them. Instead of having to grow them down in California and transport them up here.
I was just going to say, I go to the grocery today,
Yeah.
I'm buying lettuce that was grown in California.
At least 3 or 4 days ago.
Right, and trucked up here,
Correct.
all of the energy and resources that it requires to do that. But with this system, it can be grown down the street,
we can harvest
across
it.
town.
We can harvest it right now, and within an hour or less than an hour, we can have it on the
grocery
shelves.
store.
Correct.
So no need to elaborate on the benefits that might suggest. Fantastic. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This information. Looking forward to more that will come out of the research as we go forward. And of course, if you want more information about Urban Barns, about this study, future press releases, stay tuned. Go to the website at urbanbarns.com. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you.
Thank you.